Okay, I practiced all afternoon, and I'm more nervous than when I started, so hopefully it will all go smoothly. I'm just going to go through this really quickly. I think most of you do know me already, but in case someone doesn't, real quickly, I run a little company called Grover Park Consulting. I have been the author or co-author with a couple of other prominent people. I get to tag along and work on a couple of books. This joke has gotten old, but I like to tell it. This Microsoft Access in a SharePoint World is the definitive book on Access 2010 web databases because it was the only book ever written on Access 2010 web databases. Contributed to a couple others, and the most recent one is our Professional Access 2013 programming. The first half of that book is web apps. The second half is advanced programming techniques. And it's like a lot of modern books is not doing that well because Google or Bing Google has pretty much taken over that space of training. So books don't sell as well as they used to. But I still think you could buy one and make my retirement a little easier. I'm going to mention a couple of things before I dive in. This is a personal project that I've been working on, so I'm going to ask you not to share too much about it because it is health-related information. I put this in because you need to establish a ground baseline. But in order to do anything with web apps, you either have to sign up for an Office 365 account, or you have to work in an organization which has SharePoint 2013 on site.
And George, I'm gonna interrupt you just for a second. If there's portions of this that you don't want recorded, you can either let me know when to pause it, or if you want, I can just not record this altogether.
No, I'll just show you a quick look at it, and I think it'll be okay. I just, I've already shown this 2 or 3 times in public.
Okay.
I just, I'm a little, not, well, there's nothing there.
Just let me know. Just let me know.
Okay. I have mixed feelings about it, but yeah. I worked in a healthcare company for a little over a year, and HIPAA requirements, protecting private patient information was just heavy duty, and I kind of picked up that habit. So if you're going to do an Access web app, as I stated, if you work in an organization that has the SharePoint on premises, of course, you have access to that, and you have much more power in that environment than you do through the Office 365 account. But the cost of a 365 account is really reasonable for those who want to go and try this out. One of the things that I'm going to talk about a little bit is creating a subsite. And as I said, this particular web app is health information related. So in order to isolate it from anything else, it needs to be in a subsite. And with the subsite, what you can do is create unique permissions for that subsite and the web app in it, and only invite specific people to participate and give them very limited rights, basically add and delete data rights. And that way you can prevent that kind of crossing over from one to another. If I were to deploy this to a group of people, I would set up one subsite per user and give them their individual web app under that subsite to make sure that they were not able to access each other's information. And I'll show you a little bit about that. I won't go into that aspect, but I'll show you a little bit about how I tried to set that up. So let's go look at it. I'm going to put this aside. Now, so why are you giving me a hard time here? Okay. Looks like I have 2 instances running, that's why. Okay. Andy uses Chrome. I prefer Firefox. Actually, I like Internet Explorer strictly for the web apps because I think they render better than they do here in Mozilla in the Firefox browser. But for pretty much everything else, I prefer Firefox, and that's what I'm using here. So as I mentioned, this is, I was diagnosed with diabetes almost exactly 6 months ago. And one of the things that came out of that was tracking all these health-related statistics. And that's what this is. So I have regular tests, pulse, blood sugar, blood pressure, my weight are the 4 main ones here. I did a little data macro coding here so that if the results are under a certain number, then it shows the background in green. If the results are over a certain number, it shows the background in red. So I can kind of get a quick look at where I am on that day. And the highest pulse I ever had was 150, and I really don't remember that day in more ways than one. Blood sugar is the same thing. Depending on where I am, it's either green or red. And I just said, this is the current one that I'm looking at here, so that's in blue. And the average, again, if it's under a certain amount, I want it to show in green or yellow or red. So that's that one. A couple of other things, I track my exercise and chart that. Now, this one and the first one, and stop me if I get too deep into this because we really want to focus on the backup part, but this is a Apps for Office app, and it is a graph that I found by going onto the Microsoft Store. I found one that looked like what I wanted to use, embedded it, connected it to the data. It connected to my data, and then it just displays that. There are several of these. You can get them for free from the Microsoft Store. Embed them, set them up. Did I hear somebody get a question or? Okay, I'll just keep going. Anyway, and then there's the stuff where you would just indicate the various things. So that's what the web app looks like. So I will switch over. This is the demo version, and as you can see, I created a subsite under my main site and called it DemoDP. And this is where the demo version is, and we're going to work between these. The main production version lives under my team site. Now, does anybody have any questions about that distinction? Do we need to go down that path, or is that? And I'm not hearing any feedback, so I don't know if I'm getting.
Yeah, you may want to just kind of mention what do you mean by your production version versus a subsite version.
Okay. So let's go back here. In a SharePoint site, you have different subsites that you can set up. Now, by default, you're going to get a team site, but you can also create these other subsites. And the difference between the top-level site and the subsite is that you can create different user groups, give them different permissions, and restrict them to what's under that subsite. So again, on the team site, you can see this is the one that I use myself day to day. This one, it lives under the demo, and basically it's restricted. The only things that are here are the demo database itself, a recycle bin, and the recent list. And as you can see, there's nothing in the recent list. And I won't go into the permission stuff because I think that might get us sidetracked a little bit. But basically, by putting it here in this subsite, then I create a specific user group that says these people can get to it. They can't get to anything else. Okay? So let's go and any other questions or comments about that part? Okay? So I have the two versions, and as Andy pointed out, these are actually AccessUserGroups files.
And I just see, George, I just saw a message pop up by Charles. He said, I would be interested in how you keep users from getting to the team site from the subsite.
Okay, yeah, and that's kind of what I didn't want to go too deeply in. Let me hop back and just quickly talk about it. What we do, and I haven't really fleshed this out yet, site settings.
Yeah, and if needed to, if you don't want to get too sidetracked, we can wait until the end, toward the end too. So.
Yeah, we might want to do that. But as you can see, I only have one user myself, and so I'm an owner, and I can get to everything. If I put someone else in here and limit them to this user group, then they will only see things that user group has permissions to see, including this subsite and nothing above it. And the permission level is called contribute, and by putting people into this demo DT user, the demo DT trial user group, giving them contribute permissions, the only thing they can get to is what's inside this subsite. Okay, so if I logged out and logged back in as a trial user, I would lose visibility to a lot of stuff here. And we can probably come back and address that later, if, when we have more time. But that's basically the idea there. So I have two AccessUserGroups. This is the full version, and this one is the demo version. The way I built the demo version is, oops, I want to do this one first. Okay. So, been practicing all this, it works, but you never know in a live demo. So, you know how to get to the backstage. This is where you manage your connections. Read, write connections, and view the connection information. Oops. Random mouse clicking doesn't help. So save as, and this is the part that we wanted to talk about primarily, so let's go through this. When you click the Save As option under the Backstage, you have three ways to save your database. Now the first one, which is called Save a Snapshot, was originally the only option we had, and this is essentially a backup. This is where you can create a backup copy of your database or your web app and the data in the database. There are some limitations, and I did a little SQL query to show you that. Basically here, it's like once a day or once a week or however often you feel like you need to back everything up. You just come here and do that. Well, I'm just going to pop this one really quickly. Not terribly interesting, except that this is the way I originally created the demo version, was creating a backup and then restoring it. As you can see, I've been practicing a little bit here. I'm just going to call this V4 and let it run. Now, it's going to create an app package on the desktop under this folder. I want to show you a couple of things. This one is about 189 kilobytes. These two are 460, and the one that I'm creating now will come out about the same 460. The difference in these file sizes, there it is right there, is that these contain all of the data. This one contains only the views, the queries, and the macros, and the empty tables. So in this case, we've got about, if I'm doing my math right, about 270 kilobytes of data. That isn't a lot of data in here, and as you can see, in my main table, I have about 1,287 records. In the exercise table, 135, and in my medications table, about 479. So if you kind of look at that, and you can see what that translates to in file size. Now that's relevant because we have certain limitations. The maximum package size for one of these apps is 100 megabytes. At this point, my data is fitting into that's the demo version. About, what are you? Did I close that by accident? Oh yeah, no I didn't. Okay. So it's fitting into about 460 kilobytes. So I've still got a lot of room left to grow. But by comparison to the number of records, and this is about 6 months worth of data, in my opinion, this isn't any bonus storage. It's kind of adequate for a smaller application like this. And I think Andy can speak to the problems that, that can occur when you get a lot of data and you exceed the ability of Access to generate that 100 megabyte backup. The actual database itself can hold up to 1 gigabyte, but as you can see, that includes, that 1 gigabyte is going to include all of the data as well as all the forms or views, all the queries, all the macros, and everything else. So it really isn't a huge amount of storage, although it's probably adequate. Okay, so that's the first one. And let's go back. And I'm clicking around here because the WebEx dialog is impinging on what I can see. Right, so this is the team site. The second option, and again, you would just use this snapshot to make regular backups to save your data. There are two other options that were introduced not that long ago. First is deployment, and the second is new. The deployment app allows you to create versioning. And I hope this works because, well, we'll see what happens. Go to version 4. And before I actually do it, I want to go back. Site setting. No, I don't want site settings. I want site contents. So what I have up here now is version 1.0.0.0. And I have been practicing, so I'm up to version 3. And I'm going to create version 4. If you check the locked option, they are locked so they can't be changed, and you can come back later and update the contents of that package or that web app with a new version. If you leave it unlocked, then it can be modified and you get out of sync and you can't upgrade it. All data in the app tables will be dropped during packaging unless the table is marked read-only in the tile pane. And this basically says if you have lookup tables, time of day, for example, outside weather, those things that you want to use as lookups, you can mark them as read-only, and they will not be modified in subsequent deployments. And end users can't change that data. And then when you do an upgrade, any data in those tables will be overwritten by new lookup information in the table. Now, did that make sense? Anybody have any questions about that? Okay. So what I'm going to do then is go ahead and create my deployment package. And I'm in the full app, so I'm going to create this one. Boy. And again, there's a period of time when it's creating the backup package. And let's just watch this one, kind of get an idea of how long it might take. Obviously, it's kind of boring watching it spin, but I think it's a realistic look at the time involved might be helpful. It doesn't take a long time, but it isn't instantaneous because we're pulling the data down off the Microsoft server. Okay, so that one is done. And as you can see, it's back to the 189 kilobytes because it doesn't have the data in it. Okay, now let's get brave and see if I can make this work. I'm going to go back. Now, version 1.0. I'm going to upgrade it. I'm going to try to upgrade it. Pick that. And it's updating. Now, this takes a little bit longer because it's putting all that new information into the database. I didn't really make any changes in the database between those two. Andy, how are we doing for time?
So far so good. We've got it's 7:35, so we've got another half an hour or so.
Okay, good. Yeah, Teresa always stands in the back of the room at our user group here in Seattle and points to her wristwatch to let me know. So I'm kind of making sure I don't go over. But this can take a little longer. So let's go back then and look at the demo side. And we kind of got off here. Launch the app. And as you can see, there's no data in this demo version at all, although the tables are essentially the same. So let's go see. We're going to go to the site contents. It's also version 1.0. And what I want to do instead is add an app. Has the group gone through the adding a new app in the past?
Yeah, we've done that in the past, but at every session we have different people.
Okay, so I'll just go quickly. I'm going to try to add that package that I just created as a new app on the demo site. And I think it should work because we've got a different version in it. But just really quickly, to add a new app, you go to Site Contents, click Add an App. This one doesn't have a lot of options, but we click Access App. So I'm going to upload an Access App package, browse to it, grab that deployment package, and I'm going to create. Okay, great, it worked. This is probably the first time when something worked in the live demo that didn't that didn't work before. But now it's creating that same web app here in the demo site. So I have the one that's called demo. This one is called Diabetes Tracker because it came from the original version. Okay, so let's go back and check to see if the first one is done yet. And this is demo, and this is team site, and it is still adding that. So I'm going to see if we can refresh it. Nope, it's still updating that one. So let's go back then and just look at the third option for Save As while we wait for those to go. The Save As New app allows us to create a whole new web app. Now what I did here with the second option is I basically said we're going to deploy that existing web app exactly as it is. Hopefully it will have all the parts there except for the data. We're going to deploy that to our internal catalog or, in my case, onto my development website. This one is very similar, except that we're going to create a new web app. And I'm going to make sure I'm in the right place. Yeah, this is the team site. Okay. So we'll create a new app. And this one is different than the deployment because we have the option to include any existing data. Now, why would you want to do this? What I think most people would want to do this is, in my case where I have the team site and the demo site, I might want to say, you know what, I'm going to move my existing production database to a different sub-site, not the demo site, but a different personal sub-site, and kind of get it off the main site, the main team site, under a new separate specific sub-site just for that data. And in which case I would want all of my existing data to go with it. So I'll go ahead and give it a new name. We'll call it new. And we're going to put that I'm going to have so many versions that I'll lose track of which was which, but let's just go ahead and do that. Well, we got an error. And that may be because I'm doing other stuff here. So let's go back and check. Okay, so the one under the demo is there. this upgrade one isn't there yet. So let's go back and look at this, and then we'll come back and try to upload it again. As you can see, this one is now version 4.0. So that means we have several capabilities in Access Web Apps that are important to kind of the life cycle story about development. I have version 4.0 and version 1.0. Now they have slightly different names so I can tell them apart, but this is basically the same web app, version 4.0. So I think the ability to keep track of what's where and how far you are down that path might get a little bit more confusing, and you might want to use more rigorous naming and discipline that I used here. I see a question here. How does the update get migrated to copy on Subsite? So Charles' question is, how does the update get migrated to copy on the Subsite? I'm not sure. In this case, I'm not sure I can answer that directly. So let me just talk about what I did here and then you clarify. What I did
maybe I can clarify. When you make the, you did the update to the site library, so that's like the master library. But all the ones that maybe that you have on the Subsite, are they affected by that
No, and that's both a plus and a minus. I mean, you're not going to impact every web app or other web apps than the one you're working on. But as you can see, I've already got myself in a situation where I have, several versions, different types. It can be a little bit confusing as to which one you're working with. And if I were doing this, for archiving purposes, I would be more disciplined about how I name and version these and where I put them. In this case, what I did was I created this V5. And actually, that's another good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I intended to talk about that. I created this V5, called it deployment, and then I used it to create this version. But as you can see, internally, it's version 4.0 because that's what I put into the dialog when I did the save as. However, when I saved it to the Windows file system, I called it V5 deployment. So technically, this is where I should have said this is V4 for deployment. And as I just said, this is where you have to be really disciplined about how you do the naming and where you store them, the file structure, and so on, because Access is notorious for getting random files, ACCDBs and MDBs scattered all over the place, and trying to keep track of which version has the most current code and forms and everything in it. This is even worse because SharePoint inspects the internals, and in this case, even though I said it was version 5 for deployment, internally it is version 4.0. So I'm actually going to check this. Let's see what happens here. I think we'll get a failure. So I'm going to do an upgrade on this one. And this would be the case where you might want to make some changes, add a new view, add new queries, make some data macro changes, and then you want to deploy it. And again, here, this one, I deployed it, and it doesn't have the data. All it has is the objects in it. I didn't make any object changes, but in this case, if you wanted to make object changes, then you would do that, save it with a different version number. And I think I'm kind of going the long way around the block to get to your question, but what's going to happen when I try to upgrade this? If I use the same file, I get an error message. The package you chose can't be applied. The package must have the same app ID and the version number that is greater. So I think that indirectly addresses part of your question at least. I tried to put the same app package over the top of the existing one, and SharePoint knows, you've got version 4.0, version 4.0. Be an upgrade, it's got to be a newer version. Does that help address the question, or is there more to it than?
Yes, and I think I understand that if I have a live database, and I'll just go to the sub-site that the site's on, and then click on the icon and directly click update to that rather than, you did it to the overall library, but basically I would go to the site, click on the icon for the database, and then update the particular one in order to make move it to the next version. I see now.
Yeah, see, this one is the demo version, and if I try to upgrade it, we're going to get a similar error because it came from this side. So if I try to apply I will get, okay, it's the same error for a different reason. It doesn't have the same app ID, and that's the internal ID, not what I called it on the outside. So I can't upgrade this demo with my deployment from a different app because it knows that the app ID is different, therefore it came from a different source. I can only upgrade if I use the same original source ACCDW and a new app version. So let's just bang on that. Okay, so yeah, okay, so let's hop over then. If that's enough on that. This one, for some reason, is not completing. Now it's still grinding away, and it's also putting version 4.0 on top of the old version, but it's not finishing. Okay, well, we don't need to go down that path too far because that'll just be frustrating and not give us any useful information. So back here, let's launch this one now, and it shouldn't have any data because it came from the deployment package. So it's also empty. Okay. The last yeah. All right, so I already got this open. We're going to create app tracker new. And I've confused myself, so I'm just going to call this one something else. This is my basic I always put the date in the file name, so I know include all data. All right, so and oh, this is the one that created an error, and I think it's erroring out. Let's try again. I was thinking it was going to error out because we're doing something else, but more data. We'll save it here. And we're hung up. It can't get to that. Bummer. Okay, so it is responding. It wouldn't be a demo if something didn't break. Oh, and this isn't good, guys.
Yeah, I've had some cases where the screen hasn't refreshed, and I've just got to, refresh it a couple times, but sometimes it takes a while to do it, especially with my.
Yeah, that's what I thought was happening. But even though I do hit F5, I'm still getting the error. And the problem is I tried to upgrade my production web app, and so if this is host, hopefully I've got enough data. I've got the data right there, so I should be able to recover it. But you can't have too many backups, and you can't have too many. Okay, so yeah, it's not going to finish. I'm going to click here to cancel and back out. Oh, I think what was happening is I was trying to update this one at the same time I was trying to make that new web app package, and it was locking itself. So maybe it was locked here just like it was in the AccessUserGroups. So let's cancel the update, see if that actually works, and then we'll go back and try that. While we're waiting for SharePoint to respond, are there any other questions or comments, insights? No, I didn't want to go to work tomorrow anyway. I just want to sit home and fiddle with my web apps. Okay, the data is still there. Data is still there. So the worst that can happen is I have to restore a backup, and we're in good shape. But this is a bit frustrating that right in the middle of this. I can't seem to go forward or backwards. Okay, let's close. Reopen. I think I'm going to cry. Okay, so, yeah, so I broke something in here. Well, maybe it was just a momentary thing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about...
I was going to say, one of the things I've run into is when I'm developing for different clients and I'll forget who I'm logged in as, and, you know, and then I try and, you know, open the AccessUserDW on a local copy of Access, and it's asking me to log in, you know, as the correct user. I'm constantly messing that up. The only way I figured out if I can do one in Internet Explorer, and I can have a different instance open, you know, of a different one open in Chrome, and so I can be logged in as two different people in two different browsers.
Yeah, you have to, yeah. I don't think that's my problem here. I think I actually did break something because I'm the only user myself. Well, this is the demo version.
Do you have two copies of Access open?
Yeah, I have one. I have two open.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
This one is this is the team side. This is the full production one. This is the one that I tried to upgrade at the same time I tried to save a new app. I'm afraid I stepped on myself there enough to break it. So this is the demo one that doesn't have any data. Okay, I'm gonna give one more try, and if that doesn't if it doesn't work, then we'll move on, because I think I've hosed this to the point where I may just have to restore. Fortunately, I made 3 backups in a couple hours this afternoon, so I won't lose any data or any of the objects. But
yeah, and it looks like we've got some questions in the chat area if you want to look at those.
Okay, so I'll put this aside and see if I can get back to chat. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Jack. Well, yeah, Jack said I'm getting better at presenting, and I'll take this opportunity to explain. The reason I built this little web app is I was diagnosed with diabetes 6 months ago, and I'm pretty much stable now, but there was a period of time for a few months prior to that when I was not diagnosed, not under control, and not particularly on top of things from time to time. So it's nice to know that it's visible in presentations. Okay. I tried to do save as new, and that's when I got into trouble. So actually, let's do that. I'm just going to close this one down and not try to work with it because it's kind of hosed. This is the demo version. So what I will do is save as new, and I'm going to do this demo. And there's no data in it, but I will just go ahead and do it. And so this one should go a little quicker. Okay. So that went a little quicker because there's no data in it to be. And there it is right there. So now we should be able to go back. And this is a demo version. We'll go to the site. Site contents. And I'm going to add an app. And you can do it. So go get that. And that's the one I just made right there. And bang, it's adding that. So that's how you would create a new version of the app. In this case, I said included the data, but since there was no data in the demo to move over, it didn't use it, didn't include it. And this would be the case where, like I said, you might want to do it this way to get it from one subsite to another, or create a new app for other people. Get rid of all the baggage from the old version. So we looked at how to do the upgrade. We got one, I think, that did have the new version number from being upgraded. And now we're just creating a new one. And it's ready to go. So it should look exactly the same because I didn't make any changes. But you might want to do this process. Let's say you have an app that you've used for a while and you want to make some enhancements, add some features, and you want to deploy it as a new app rather than upgrade to an old app. You do that, make those changes, then deploy it here as a new app. Okay, that's pretty much it. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I just posted in the chat. I pulled up the link to that SharePoint app limits if people wanted to look at that earlier.
Okay. Okay, it looks like my base one is back and I'm not raising that error, so I'm good. I'm good now. I was a little bit worried about that, but it reloaded fine. So I think whatever it was just a hang up from trying to do too much at once.
Right.
Okay, that's kind of all I know about it. I think if I were to create a commercial app where I was trying to sell it or distribute it through the App Store, like I say, I would be using these same techniques to create one for deployment, and then as changes came along and got included, you just do the upgrade into the one in the App Store. So it does give us more of what you think of when you think of the full life cycle development, where you go through development and test and production. And that brings us closer to a enterprise type application.
George, when you're dealing with the different versions of an app, I mean, I run into this as well, where I'm constantly upgrading different clients, databases, and stuff. Do you have a good method for keeping track of what changes occurred in what databases?
Well, not on the web app side. However, I have this tool for the desktop side called AccessDiff. It's a commercial tool, and I think I paid $160 or something like that for it. But it just basically takes two HTTP files and compares them, tables, all of the objects, and gives you actually it creates a spreadsheet and an HTML document with all those changes. And I've used this quite a bit because, especially if you have two developers working on something, you can merge your changes more confidently.
Yeah, I think I've used the FMS tool in the past as well.
Yeah.
And the other thing I noticed is that after installing Microsoft Office 2013, is that if you click on Start, go to Microsoft Office 2013, and look in the Office 2013 tools, there's also a database compare 2013 there. I've never tried it, but I know that's there. I was really thinking about more as you're building something.
This one is this what you're?
No, if you click on Start and look at Microsoft Office 2013, the folder, Office Start, your Start.
Oh.
And under, yeah, see, you're using that interface, but
yeah. Okay.
yeah. So for me, it's the folder. The regular Start button. Where you can click and you can see all your apps, and you click on all programs, and then you choose Microsoft Office 2013, and then you choose Office 2013 Tools. Under there's a database compare 2013.
I don't think I've ever used it.
Yeah, it comes with Office, but I've never.
I've never used it, although I will now that you have pointed it out. Yeah, I just haven't looked at. At one place where I worked for a while, they had that Access Diff tool, and I got familiar and comfortable with it. That's why I bought it for myself. But I quite like it. I quite like it. But I wasn't even aware that there was database compare.
Yeah, the only problem is that, like you said, it goes through all the forms and queries and tables, and sometimes it's like I know I'm only changing like 5 or 6 things, and so what I've resorted to now is I just have a Google spreadsheet doc that I say what version of the software, the client's database basically, and what changes I made to it, just so that I have a log of not just that a form changed, but why I changed that form. As opposed to comparing every object in two databases.
Yeah, this tool, you can check the things you want to compare. Mm-hmm. So if you're only interested in changes to one thing, you would uncheck it. Of course, ADP is no longer relevant in 2013, but yeah, you could say I'm just interested in changes to modules that I've made.
Gotcha.
And you can just select that and then view the differences.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and what I do is the same thing as you do. It generates a spreadsheet, and then I just add columns out at the right, indicating what I changed and why.
Gotcha.
Via documentation, yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and